Da da da! What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. You know what? We're letting YouTube, right? Have a couple of minutes, get those notifications out, let people know I go live. I suspect a lot of my audience are nicely tucked in bed. They may be up at 3 o'clock in the morning. They may sleep in. I have good sleeping habits. I am so grateful for my good sleeping habits, but I get it. There are a lot of people out there who don't sleep well at all. I have to attribute a lot of my good health to that good sleeping habits. When I was a kid, I looked forward to going to sleep because it was the end of my turmoil, right? It was, for the most part, right? Not always, but for the most part, it was peace. It was a place where I could let my guard down. And, you know, uh, I've always appreciated that time. I find now that as I'm getting older, I don't need that much sleep as I used to. Maybe because I'm not as physically active as I used to, but I am more mature. And you look at the people going, like granny speed, and I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that yet, but right? If I play my cards right, if I continue to take my vitamins, right? Continue to stay grounded in those things that I love to do. If I continue to feel out intent with people and to be able to swim through that sea of whatever that is in the moment. Today, I was grateful. I brought a little bit of money into the household when I was at the little thrift store that put the roof over my head. You guys know I love my stuff, right? But there's not a lot of space in my place for everything. So lots of times I find nooks and crannies to tuck things behind for that day when I have my dream house or my dream farm or my dream apartment or whatever it is that I can create, because that's what I do quite often in those spaces where I'm not being active, that some people might say that I'm procrastinating. I will go into that dream state and I'll think about my dream bedroom, which I have all the decor for that I have been collecting for 5 years when those perfect pieces have come into the store. Now I don't know why I've gone off about that. Give me 1 second. It will come back to me. And if it doesn't, we'll just move on with that. Okay. Back to the main branch. So anyway, today I was all proud of myself. There we go. I was all proud of myself. I sold a piece of art. I pulled I pulled a pretty good piece of profit out of this piece of art today. I was all proud of myself. I paid $7 for it. It was an abstract. It was, like one of these Andy Warhol prints, but it was an artist proof, and it was signed. But the problem was, and it was beautifully framed, professionally framed with refractive glass and everything, so that you could see it wherever you were in a room. And it was broken in the corner of the picture frame, and the moisture had gotten inside the glass, and halfway up the print there was mold growing on it. Looked at a few YouTube videos and stuff, and oh, this will be a great project. Pull it out of the frame, get out my Q-tips and my alcohol, and go to town and turn this $7 picture into a picture I thought might be worth $4,000. I bought this picture a couple years ago, I think, and I just put it away. Now, luckily, that mold did not get any higher up onto the canvas. But again, I'm putting a roof over my head and I've got too much stuff and I love the print, but I love all my stuff and I can't keep everything just because it was a score when I got it. Like I said, I only paid $7 for it. So I put it up last night before I went to bed and I asked $200 for it. Oh my goodness, it was like my phone blew up, right? And I got my $200. And everybody, I only had two people come to look at it. The second lady, oh my goodness, she was here in like 5 minutes when I replied back to her. She wanted it so badly. But I was happy for her at the same time because, like I said, if you uh, got that mold off of that canvas and you got it reframed in a different frame because it was cracked and we don't want the moisture to get back in there, I bet you she could ask between $4,000 and $6,000 for this print. It was pretty. It was a pretty amazing. Actually, I did. I'm so smart sometimes. Sometimes I just amaze myself. Because I took pictures in the. Here it is. Can we get a good picture? There we go. It was a 15-inch by 25-inch print, and you can see it had non-reflective glass on it. You can see it was an abstract. There's a special name for this kind of art, and I scored that at work. But I'm doing other things, right? I want it in and I want it out, and I think $193 profit is pretty darn good. Now, did I put it towards my bills? No, I didn't. My cat needed things. The fridge needed things. I needed some things, right? So no. But, right? I have been bringing in a few dollars here and there, and it's been keeping me going. And I'm so grateful, right, that this is trickling in. But oh my goodness, if I could do that, can you imagine if I actually took it seriously, right? Took it serious. I'm just, right, selling out of my apartment, cleaning out my apartment, and I scored pretty good. Hello, Eugene. Hello, Melvin. Melvin says, my good cheer for today. I got a free replacement tire for the truck and got my toenail trimmed properly by a pro. Ugh, I don't like my feet touched. I don't like my feet touched. Um, my parents, I don't know where they came up with this and what their intent was. My dad always made it feel like it was fun in the beginning, right? But my parents would pin me down, like literally on the ground, pin me down, and they would tickle me. And my mother's favorite place was my feet in them, right? And it was torture. And yet I would be laughing, laughing, laughing uncontrollably. But it was so ticklish that it was painful. So now, as an adult, having my feet touched is not something that I appreciate. But I appreciate that you appreciate a good little toe trim or a big toe trim. Is that what you said? We didn't say what toe it was. But anyway, to get that toe, and it's important to keep your toes properly trimmed because you don't want them to go ingrown. And on top of that, um, toe fungus, you have to pay attention to your feet. And, I would say, how long ago was it? Oh, it's got to have been 10 years ago. I got toe fungus on my big toe. Never paid attention to it, right? It was just a big ugly toe. Who cared, right? Who cared? And yet I lost all this weight, and I look at my feet and I just say, "Oh, Cindy, your feet are just so ugly." Right? And so it took me 6 years to get rid of it. Literally, it took me 6 years. If I had known, and that's how bad I let the toe go, if I had known that that's how long it was going to take for it to properly grow out, I would have taken the whole nail off. But it was scary. I didn't want a toe with no nail at all. So I just let it grow out, and I just kept trimming it and cleaning it, and yeah, now it's back to normal. But I know from that experience how important it is to take care of your feet. I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good about taking care of my feet. I've had lots of experiences to remind me to take care of my feet. I will never wear another pair of Walmart runners ever again, right? Um, for anybody, that some good advice, right? Truly good advice. Take care of your feet, right? You don't want to be in a walker, right? You don't want to be in a wheelchair. You want to go for your walks, your bike rides. When somebody says, "Do you want to go to a movie?" Right? You want to be active enough that you can move around and enjoy your senior years. Physically, for myself, I feel like I'm in my late 30s now, physically. Oh, for sure. I feel like in my late 30s. I don't feel quite like in my 40s because I think when you're in your 40s, you start to slow down, right? You start to get a little wiry in the brain because, there's those midlife crises and there's the menopause and stuff. But, but, yeah, I don't feel my age, but I don't have a lot of things that signal and mirror back to me my actual age, right? I tend to sway the different, right? Kind of stay I kind of stay on my brand. This is Puma, right? Not to show it off because there's a big thing. There's lots of homeless out there that are wearing the Nike and the Puma and the Adidas. It's the style and they want it and they find it and they get it and they wear it. So it is for everybody, but it is a brand. It's a brand that I don't know. It's right. You pay extra money, same fabric, same designs, get a little trademark on it, and it kind of doubles the price, right? So I stay youthful in the brand, and I think in the style of clothing that I wear, I'm pretty casual. I'm comfy, but I like hoodies. I love hoodie shirts. But I like the dress ups too. And I like the boho chic and right. And I like the straight lace business one. I like it all. I am chameleon. I right. I have my flavors of the day, right? I dress to my mood. Even today, I went to my closet and I picked out a few shirts and hung them up and stuff. And I went, oh my goodness, Cindy, I could do this all day, right? Just grab something. But I was trying to judge the weather outside, right? I didn't want to wear sleeveless or anything because it's not quite hot enough, but it's not cool either. It's like 15 Celsius. It was earlier, almost hit 20. today, which is room temperature, but I didn't know if there was a breeze or anything. So I thought today a light hoodie would be good. I could have done with a loose blouse or something. It was that nice out. And I was able to get out and get some chores done, divvy out some money for some things, and take a little bit of that heaviness, right? It's like I go into the kitchen cupboard and go, "Oh my goodness, you're running low on coffee, Cindy," and right, the sugar's running low, and you need this and you need that, and then I start thinking and I start budgeting, right, for the month and what's coming up and what I need to bring in, and oh my goodness, it's been a while since I've done that, but I'm managing okay. I'm grateful for being able to have a job that I was able to learn. I've always been into antiques and collectibles. I used to sell fur coats online. I go to thrift stores and I buy a fur coat for $10 or $15 and sell them for five, six, seven, $800 online. There was a couple of models that made them really popular, and everybody wanted my fur coats. And of course, living in Winnipeg, Manitoba, besides Russia, right? We've got the market in the furs and in the pelts, and right, lots of people don't appreciate the idea that people are wearing furs, but you got to remember, right? Not a lot of furs are being harvested like they used to be, right? So lots of people are refurbishing old furs, and the old styles of furs are even popular too. The little capes are always being looked for weddings and stuff, and that everything has value to it when you think that this was actually an animal that had a life, had an existence. If somebody to wear a vintage fur coat and then to have a can of paint thrown on them, it would be kind of disrespectful to that animal that gave its life, because it should be appreciated. It's now become a symbol for what happened, because I tell you, yeah, fur trading is what made our country. And it's a fact. And if you go into history, and you could just it's what funded the exploration. It's what funded and made it possible. We had our first settlement here, right? The Selkirk settlement coming over, and yeah, that was an interesting experience for those first Europeans that came to settle this land amongst the indigenous and amongst the Métis, because the Métis had already established themselves. And the Métis, if you don't know, were the children of the fur traders, and they called them winter wives, which were the indigenous wives, where they would take them up and have families with them. And believe it or not, when their contracts were over with the company, these men would go home, back to Europe, and they would leave their winter wives behind with the kids. Yeah, and lots of them stayed. They came attached. I mean, you know uh when you look into history and the documentaries and stuff, they say that the indigenous wives were very, very good wives. A lot of the credit to the villages and those tribes, for the fact that they did a lot of the work that nowadays men would be looked at to do, right? So it's really interesting, and they were well treated and well respected, and they were always seen and always heard, right? There was always a place. There was no segregation, and there was no upper and lower class when it came to men and women. There's lots of things to admire about every single culture in this world. Lots of times I find it so interesting when I delve into the social aspect of the anthropology, these topics that I really enjoy keeping up on, right? In the archaeological, and when they tie in together, even better. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay, so I got really offbeat on that. But yeah, I was all proud of myself. I sold a picture today that I paid $7 for 100. Well, I made $193. I sold it for $200. All proud of myself. Let's see if Cindy can sell something tomorrow. Wouldn't it be amazing if this could be my job? And right, it's not exactly what I want to be doing, but at the same time, it is fun. It's one of my hobbies to start with, and if I'm moving it out, as long as I'm moving it out and just not collecting it, and that's the idea. Right now, I'm just moving things out of my apartment to lessen things and to make a little bit of room. Lots of times, that I thought when I purchased things, I knew I wasn't purchasing them for myself. But at the time, it was a kind of conflict of any interest. I couldn't sell anything online. But now I'm not working for the company. Let's get rid of some stuff, right? Let's keep a roof over my head. Let's make it so I don't have to go back to work, that I don't have to have those. I love working. I really do love working. But I love what I'm doing here. And this is the way I want to move and in the direction I want to move. So if I could apply all my energy, right, right, that would be amazing. I was 1 year away from a retirement. Wouldn't that be cool if I said that I retired early? Even though I'm not retiring, right? I'm still working, but I'd be working for myself, right? But I could technically say, right, I've retired. Early retirement, right? And just amaze people because they're still doing the 9 to 5, Monday to Friday grind, and they're like 67 years old and they can't even afford to retire. But that's that attachment to money. I was thinking about that today when I scored that $200 for that print, and right away because I didn't expect it. I didn't expect it, right? It was a nice surprise, but at the same time, I'm so grateful for my list that I keep a list of every bill that needs to be paid, the groceries that I need, the things that I need in my toiletries, the cat's needs and stuff. And right, I'm keeping the household going. I even went and talked to my landlord to see if maybe we can get the rent knocked down a little bit, right? Because my rent is dictated by the amount of money that I was making. I'm not making that money now. So I thought it reasonable that maybe I could ask, and maybe if we could knock a couple $100 off of my rent, how amazing would that be? Right? Right? And just make for sure compound the idea that I could do this. But also, I would have to compound the idea that, right, we're going to put that time to work, right? Not going to put Cindy to work, but the time to work because I'm going to be working at something I enjoy. I was telling my sister today, like we were looking at some auctions to maybe going, and then I was telling we should do some estate sales, do more thrifting, right? I could do the in city selling, and she can do the eBay part of it, right? And wouldn't that be cool? Yeah. Tell people I retired early. But to go back to that idea, I'm grateful that I don't feel my age, but I don't have those things mirroring my age in my life. Like I don't have no kids, I don't have any grandchildren. I don't have a husband, right? Um, and I'm relatable to all different ages, right, and class, right, and I do believe that you know that's a gift, right? And I've been thinking about all my all my gifts, and these are gifts that have come from experiences, and sometimes the experiences are not so great, but if I earn that badge, I'm going to utilize it 100%. You know, uh, I feel intent, right? So when I meet people and everything, and they pull fast ones on me, or they're making comments underneath or within the comments and in the conversation. It's specifically to bring you down to their level or make you feel bad about yourself or make you feel inferior to, right, their insecurities. That and then lots of people say, "Oh, don't worry about that. Them, they're just so and so. They don't mean it." And I go, "Yes, they do, right?" But when they're getting all that support, kind of go. I have to go with that majority because then I'm just butting head up against something that if I push it, it's going to just agitate it, right? So today I was thinking about some of these gifts that I have, but these are gifts born of my experience. And that gift of intent was not born out of a good experience. That was born out of my hypervigilance in looking to know where the next boot was going to drop, right? Making sure it wasn't going to drop on my butt. And that's the truth. But I earned that badge, so I utilize it, and it has served me very, very well. But that is one of a few, and I've never even really taken a look at it. Right? I know serendipities. I can read those pretty good, that I have that understanding that I'm partnering with myself. So when I do that, I have that respect for myself to know what agitates those other parts of me, and then also pay attention to that attention that I give myself that is just too hyper focused, that is too controlling and demanding. Not to butt heads with that, but to be a little bit more reasonable, understandable, right? And take in lessons because I understand if I have to sit here and take a lesson, right? Other parts of me have to sit there and take a lesson. And God forbid I should resonate with something that is gonna sort it all out, right? Make me feel better. I would much prefer it if we made it feel better for everyone concerned. But I know it's not always that way. But I'm not going to be guilting myself out in my selfishness in crawling out of that pit, right? Every single one of us has that right, right? Yeah, every single one of us has that right to crawl out of that pit. If you want to put that work in, if you want to put that effort in, if you want to achieve a little bit of comfort, right? Because sometimes the best that we can do is to reach out for the comfort in the discomfort, right? It's not always me looking out to be top 1%, right? But I'm looking to be comfortable, not to worry that there's no groceries in the fridge, and how am I going to spend this $200 from this painting score that I got, right? That I'm able to create a life for myself. And if I want to put that little bit extra work into it, to be able to achieve that little bit of extra for myself. And if I choose not to, then that's fine too. But then not to expect as many, right? And as much to come across my path in the way of those things that help to make life a little bit more comfortable. It's all I started with, right? It's amazing when things are a little bit more than comfortable because that's where the fun, the excitement, and the joy, right? The wonder, right? The wonder is the, like today, selling that picture so fast. It happened so fast. I was just shocked and dazzled and amazed and grateful at the same time that I did that. And that was a huge, huge profit that I made on that. And that's replicable. I could do that again, right? That's something that I could do over and over and over again because I am pretty good in my art. I have another piece up here that I got at my work. I'm sure it's worth a couple $100. It's from um, a full eclipse from 1976, and it's at 95%. So it was this eclipse photo was taken in the most opportune spot in the Pacific Ocean, right on the equator. That year was where it was visible for 32 seconds, and yeah, and because of that, I got one of maybe 300 prints of this one. So yeah, this I think a lot of astronomers would like this it's a print, right? It's a photo print is what it is of this eclipse. It's absolutely amazing, and it's signed and it's dated, and guaranteed it's worth a few $100s. But I have a piece of Inuit art too. Not to mention these two. These two are worth a little fortune. I'm pretty good with the art. My problem is I don't necessarily want to part with it because in my mind, like I said, I'm decorating my future bedroom, right? And so I'm picking pieces for these future homes that I may or may not ever achieve. Right? I move towards that anyway, right? Understanding I'm going to get what I get, and but I think the odds would be a little bit better if I voiced and I actually visualized and dreamed and moved towards those things that I really want in my life, right? Otherwise, how are those other parts of me going to know unless I express it in some way? And that's true. Let me have a sip of my coffee, you guys. We're going to grab a card tonight, and we'll just go into it for a couple minutes. Thank you, Malvin. Thank you, Eugene. Anybody else who pops in, you get home, put your feet up, come in before you go to bed, get a little bit of get a little bit of Cindy, right? But it is with good intent. It really is. And the one thing about coming in at this time of night, I know exactly how much energy I have left, and I'm good with just draining it down to dry. And on top of that, though, you get all the you get all the lessons and the experience of my day because I absorb, and I digest, a lot, and I might not necessarily connect with the outside as much as I would like. It's something that I'm always keeping top of mind, and I'm always not even forcing myself. You don't have to force me to go for a walk or right to go hug. You don't have to do anything. I'm happy to do that. But when you love the movement, when you love what you're doing, if you love, right, like I'm deep into it, so it is kind of hard to pull me away from that, right? That's why I think that I was gifted also, right, with the ADD, right? It's just that keep jumping up and going off to do something else because otherwise it would be really, really hard for me to pull myself away sometimes. I mean, the video I'm watching right now, I looked at how long it was. I just to see how if I had time enough to watch it before I went live tonight. You guys, I am 28 minutes into a 7 hour, 40-minute lesson. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Carl Young. When I first came into these ideas, you know, I never ever thought of myself too much of a philosopher. I had my own way of thinking. Um, But being the realist that I was, I never really went too deep because it wasn't going to be any use. It wasn't something if I brought it to the surface that I could have discussions with my sisters, right? Who were basically my own friends. It was in those jobs that I had sometimes that I got to sit in on some conversations with some people who did appreciate some of those contents. And then, you wake up to a few ideas and you see and feel the connection finally, right? You get it. Before you could just sit there and smile and shake your head and, oh, yeah, yeah, and have no idea what they're talking about. And now I'm sitting in, and it has, right? It has been not that long. He's always been around. He's always popping up. But no, I would always pass it because it was just too, too heavy, too far fetched. It was somebody I thought that I would be able to relate to because he was such a brainiac. Now I'm coming to better understand that's not the case. We just interpret it a little bit different. Not interpret it like it's accents. It's almost like an accent now, right? And you listen to somebody talk from Scotland and stuff. It's hard to pick up those words and you miss like 75% of it. But after a while, you go, oh my goodness, right? I'm not quite talking the language yet, but I am sitting in. I am being a spectator and I am being a student in it. And I'm finding it to be interesting and a lot of it true, right? A lot of it is. Um, I wish, right, that that as human beings we are not using ourselves and allowing others to use us as the guinea pigs. But I understand also, right, if we should make that choice, that it would be mutually agreed upon, right? Meaning, have a good talk with yourself, sit down and contemplate it, right? My mother used to say, if somebody told you to jump off a bridge, would you? Right? Take some time, think about it, make some good decisions, and sending some good cheer. I live behind a fire engine. Let's get them to their destination. Knock on the door. Somebody answers. And they, oh, sorry, everything's better now. Right? It was a scary moment, but everything's better now. And they can just turn around and go back to the station. And it is getting late now, so they should actually be trying to get a nap. But these fire trucks, these paramedics, right? They they go all night. They don't stop. It's the world that we live in, right? It truly is. Okay, you guys, 2 minutes. Here we go. This is the word tonight. Something that I'm always working on. Oh, but the first thing that came into my mind, and I did want to talk about this, right? Because it's something that I don't feel that I have. And it's not something I normally, we got the word presence, you guys, okay? Presence is having the determination and courage to step forward, to be seen, and to be heard. Presence. And that's true too. But let me get back to my story on presence. So there was a word I had to Google this week, and the word was cadence. I didn't quite understand that the word. It sounded kind of musical to me, like a lullaby. I didn't know what the definition was, but it was referred in a preacher who was giving a lesson. Yes, I sit in and preachers and professors and psychologists and therapists and everyday regular people, right? Everyday regular people. I learn from everything. A phone call, text, right? In selling a picture, right? I learn from that and go, oh, and then my brain starts stirring. I'm thinking, oh, can I do this? Can I start moving into early retirement, which really isn't early retirement. It's more like working for myself, but it would be pretty amazing. Okay, so back to this word presence that we got. Um, Cadence. I looked into this word cadence, and the definition was a song, the way something is presented. It's almost presented in like a song. That wasn't the exact presentation, but that was kind of the gist of it. And I went, oh my goodness, right? And it reminded me of the horror movies. That came right to my mind was the horror movies, and how the English, they put the scary spooky music in the ghost story, and you go around corners and stuff, and the music builds up, and then usually it just fizzled out. And that is to build an emotion in somebody. Now in the idea of the movie, the ghost movie, it was to scare you. It was to build up that tension and anticipation, and oh, don't go around that corner, and right. So the cadence does the same thing. And I go, oh my goodness, I don't like cadence. I don't like cadence. I don't like it. It's too phony baloney. It's not genuine. I can't do that. And then I stopped, and I had to give myself a serious talking to. I had to I had to do a little bit of contemplation on it, because I took in a lesson this afternoon by one of my favorites. Such a genuine man. And I love him for lots of reasons. He's a great teacher. He gives from the heart. He teaches through his own experiences, because I feel intent. I feel the intent in what the lesson is trying to be presented to us. And he uses the cadence in his lessons. But it's different. It's not like the horror movie stuff, right? And it's not the preacher style, but it is very dramatic. right? Lots of hand movements and lots of talking slow and and it's amazing and I love it and I'm drawn to it and I'm going, oh my goodness, part of the gift is in the voice, in the presentation, and it's genuine. That is totally 100% genuine because that's the genuine character that he grew into, right? That he grew into. I don't know. Maybe lots of people they well, we won't go into that's a topic for another day. We'll stay in the word presence and we'll bring it right back to the main branch. But his presence is amazing. And he's not the only one that I follow who presents their lessons and their conversations in a very theatrical, sometimes a very ASMR, right? ASMR kind of style, that that voice. And then there's Cindy all excited and all that energy coming out, right? And lots of us would beat ourselves up for not having that talent of cadence. But for me, what is it? They call it something. A hook? Is that the hook? Something that we do that's just ours. Like when I come into my lives and I do that da 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 da, right? And that's mine. I come in and that's part of what my live show is about. But that's right. People don't go down the sidewalks going da 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 da, right? They don't meet their friends for coffee and go da 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 da. They don't do that. That's that's my part of my cadence, and that's all to build, right? And to try to settle in an emotion before I've even, right, said anything else, before I even gone into the lesson, that maybe you could feel like you're sitting here having a cup of coffee with me and we're just having a conversation. Right? Melvin does it with me all the time. He pops into my live show and it's just like, right, popping in and saying hi, settling down for the night, but doing it with a little good cheer, a little bit of company that we appreciate rather than something that maybe we don't appreciate, like headline news or who's saying what, or right. Could always be it could always be something a little bit worse. But I'm pretty happy with how my day went today. So we're going to just end this live now, staying on the topic of that presence, right? Each one of us has it, but we look at this word presence and right away you think of Donald Trump all right, or Mother Teresa and her offerings in her own life. There are so many characters out there that have built up their characters because it's how their life has dictated it. It's how they they build that connection with their followers and their audience. And I never recognized it before, and I'm not sure whether I'm truly a I noticed the cadence when my favorites thought leaders, right? People I take my lessons from, and I'm not sure if I even noticed it before, right? I knew all those lovely, valuable traits of his, but I'm not too sure if that cadence was something that that I stuck around for. It might have brought me in, but it's always 100% the lesson. It always is. And it's funny because you know what, like I said, I looked at cadence for a few minutes as something that was phony baloney and not genuine, but that could be further from the truth. It's because um, cadence is something that is ignited and is igniting emotions, right? It is giving you a feeling. It's drawing you, drawing you in, right? And that's a gift, and that's truly something that is genuine in that offering 100%, right? If you're working in emotions in any way, okay, you guys, I am off track. I think I have burnt almost every single bit. Going to get me some juice because my mouth is dry. No vitamins or anything tonight. My night is over. We're going to crawl into bed and we're going to wake up tomorrow filled right to the top and ready to go again. And let's see if Cindy can do it again. Right? That was a good one today. $193 profit on something I paid $7 for. You guys have a great night and we'll see you.